Be'ezus Hashem. Today's daf is Masechta Baba Kamma Daf Kuf Hey. We're going to begin from Daf Kuf Hey Amud Aleph, about like 7 lines from the top. Let us begin. The Gemara, the Mishnah said that if someone steals even a shava pruta, a penny from somebody, and swore falsely, he denied it, and then admitted to his guilt. So the Mishnah said that you have to follow and return the penny, the item, back into the hands of the one you stole it from, even if that person went to a faraway place called Madai. That was the Mishnah. And you continue to follow the guy. But what happens if you got a message that the guy was moichel everything? He said, you don't have to pay me the Karen, you don't have to, or the chaimish, but you don't have to pay me the Karen, the principal of what you owe me. So then you don't have to, if there's a half a penny left that you owe the person, then you don't have to chase him down to Madai to give it to him. So that's what the Mishnah said. Chutz mipaches mishava pruta bekaren. Except you don't have to go chase him down if there's less than a shava pruta, less than a penny left of principal. Amar Rapapa explained, Loi Shanu was not taught that you don't have to chase the nigzal down to wherever he is to return him his gazela, Ella, and if it's worth less than a penny or worth less than a pruta, Ella she'ein gazela kayamas. If the actual item that you stole is not around, Aval gazela kayamas. But let's say the item that you stole is still around, even if it's not worth a penny anymore. When you stole it, let's say it was worth a penny. You stole a fork from the guy, and now it's not worth anything. It's worth less than a pruta. So then you would think that you don't have to chase him down. The answer is tzorach leil chachrav. If the actual item that you stole, you still have to chase him down to Madai. Chayshinim, because we are concerned, shemeti yaker. Maybe someday that the item that you stole, even though now it's not worth a penny, but it might go up in value. It might appreciate, and therefore you will have to chase him down to Madai. Amma, that's what Rapapa said in the first expression. Ika the Amre, but others say, Amar Rapapa said, Loi Shana, it was not taught in our Mishnah. It doesn't matter in our Mishnah. You never have to chase and go to the nigzal. If the item that you stole is right now less than a penny, and in Loishna, it would not matter gzela kayemis, whether the item is still around. The Loishna does not matter she'ein gzela kayemis, the item is not around. Einei tzarach leilach acharov. You don't have to chase him down. Why? Shemeti yaker loy chashina. Maybe that the item will appreciate in value and be worth more than a penny. We're not concerned about that. And therefore, no matter what, if the item that you stole is not worth a penny anymore, you don't have to chase him down to Madai. New Gemara, and interesting cases that Rava had questions about. Amar Rava said, Gazel shalish agudos, you stole 3, imagine you stole 3 little stalks of like hadassim. All right, he stole 3 hadassim, b'shalish prutos. Each one was worth a penny. So now the total is worth 3 pennies. V'huzlu, and the price of these agudas went down. V'amdu al shtayim, and now they're only worth 2 pennies. For 3, all you have to pay is 2 pennies, 2 prutas. So now each one is worth less than a penny, correct? But if you return to the nigzal 2 agudos, so you would think that what's left over that you did not return is 1 aguda, one hadas, which is not worth anything, which is not worth a pruta. Rava was mechadish, chayv lahachzir lo yacheres. You have to return him the other aguda, even though right now it's not worth a pruta. But when you stole it, it was worth a pruta, and therefore you have to return it to him. And if you swore falsely, that's 1 little hadas. You're going to have to chase him down to Madai. Utana Taina, and the Tana of a Brisa is a support for what Rava just said. The Tana we learned, Gazel chametz v'avalava Pesach. If someone steals chametz, and Pesach passed over. So now he stole chametz. Let's say that's worth $1,000. But now we know that chametz she'aval olav Pesach. After Pesach, it's Asur Bahano. Nevertheless, the Goslin can go back to the Nigzal and says, he can tell him, here's your chametz back, and that's it. Here's your chametz back. And even though it's not worth anything anymore because it passed over at Pesach, nevertheless, the Goslin could exonerate himself by returning the item that he stole, even though right now it's not worth anything. So we darshan, Tamba the Isabene, it's only because you still have it around, therefore you have to return it to the Nigzal. But if it wasn't around, if it was not around, let's say it got disintegrated or it's spoiled, since it's not worth money now. Even the imikara, since in the beginning, who it was considered money when you stole it before Pesach, it was worth money. By Shaluma, you have to pay. So therefore, that's the understanding of the Raisa. So that will extrapolate and apply that to the case of Rava. When somebody stole 3 hadasim worth 3 prutas, and they became cheapened, the price of hadasim went down, and now you can get for 2 prutas 3 hadasim. Even if you return 2 of them, you still have to return the third one. Same case. Even hafagav the hashta. Now at the time of returning, loy shava pruta. Even 1 hadas is not worth a pruta. Even the mikara have a shava pruta. Since at the time that you stole it, it was a shava pruta. By shalume, you have to pay it. Same thing over here. Chametz after Pesach is not worth any money, but since at the time that you stole it, it was worth money, that's why you have to pay. So this Brisa or a Mishnah is actually a support to Rava. Boy Rava asked the question, Gozel shtei agudis bepruta, if someone steals 2 bundles, they were worth a pruta. 2 bundles, 1 pruta. The hechzel lo yachas man, and you returned one of them, right? You returned one of them. Now what's left is another aguda, one other hadas, let's say, and it's not worth a pruta. Maho, what's the din? Me, I'm reading hashtag zela. You don't have anything that you stole because what you have in your possession is something less than a pruta. So the Gazan it didn't steal anything. Or maybe but you didn't return the entire gazela that was in your possession. When you stole it, you stole a shava pruta. So now that you gave back one, maybe you weren't mekayim the mitzvah of hashava, and you would have to give back the other. So this was Rava's question. Hada pshate, and then Rava answered it himself. Gezela ankam, because you don't have, in your possession right now, you only have 1 aguda, 1 hadas, and so therefore it's not considered stolen because it's less than a shava pruta. Therefore, hashava ankam, you don't have the mitzvah of hashava. So the Gemara asks the question, if you don't have gazela in your possession, that means you totally have 100% no gazela in your possession. So therefore, hashav yeshkan, then you should be required to return it. So what did Rava mean? So the Gemara explained, hachi kamma. This is what Rava meant. Even though right now you don't have any gazela because you have only what's left in you is a pachas b'shava pruta, but mitzvahs hashava enkan. There's no mitzvah to return that one. In other words, until you return that extra one, you weren't mekayim the mitzvah of hashava because you only returned one of the aguda and you didn't return the other. So you didn't give back any. He wasn't meishav the gzela. In order to return the gzela, you have to give back to the nigzal a penny. Give him back a shava pruta, and you only gave back one of the 2. So therefore, Rava said that Rava would require you to return the other one. Hi, Stephen. We are in middle of Kufhei Amar Aleph, and we're up to V'amar Rava. In fact, your timing is perfect because we're up to a new sugya, another idea. Yeah, so it's very perfect. V'amar Rava said like this. A Nazir, listen to this question. A Nazir, after he finishes his term, has to shave his hair. Mamish, he has to be like no hairs left on his body. And once he's megaleach his sa'arai, then that means he completed his Nazirus process. But Rava said, Hare Amru, let's say Nazir Shigilach. Let's say Nazir razor bladed his entire body, Vishir Shtei Sa'arais, and left over 2 hairs that he did not shave. Like Asav like Klum. He didn't accomplish anything because as you have to shave off to the last 2 hairs, even there's no hairs remaining. And if he left over 2 hairs on his body, he wasn't Mekayim the mitzvah of Giluach. His Naziris is not over. Rava asked the question. Let's say he shaved everything and there was 2 hairs left. Gilach achas. The question is v'nasha achas. Let's say the last 2. So one of them he razor bladed it off, and the other one fell out by himself. So up until you got to that point, you didn't mekayim the mitzvah of giluach because there was 2 hairs left. But nevertheless, you didn't cut the last 2 hairs. One of them you actually cut, but the other one, the nazir, it fell out by itself. Maho.
These are only external hairs, right? Not like in your nose.
Not in your nose. Right.
Okay.
It's called, there's right, not in your nose or anything like that, and here's covered. But anything else, you have to be really like a pumpkin. So Amalei Rav Acha Medifta Ravina. So Rav Acha Medifta said to Ravina, "Dilzir shegilach achas komebayle the Rava." This doesn't make sense. It should not be a question because when you get to the last 2 hairs, right? Even if you cut the one hair, you're ready, and the other one fell out. You're ready mekayim the mitzvah, because once you cut the first of the last 2, then there's no 2 hairs left. So you're ready mekayim the mitzvah of giluach. So what's Rava's question? Amalei. So Ravina explained, like Tzricha, Rava's question is the opposite. Kigoin, listen to this. He razor bladed his entire body. So now he has 2 hairs left. He's mamish at it's 4th and goal, right? He has to cut off those last 2 hairs. What happened was nishar achas mehen. One of them fell out. So one of them fell out, vigilach achas, and then he razor bladed the last one. So, but the fact is, giluach, in order to be kind the mitzvah of giluach, you have to razor blade 2 hairs. Mi amrinam, do we say hashtamias halek shir? When what's left to do giluach is no shir, and therefore is not a shir giluach. So you already retroactively yotzei the mitzvah of giluach, even though you had assistance by one of the hairs falling out by itself. Or maybe halav giluachi. That's not called giluach. The miikara hashayir shtei. At the end, there was 2 hairs left. Bahasha ki gilach. When you're ready to do the giluach, loy have a beis saras. There's no 2 saras to mekayim the mitzvah of giluach. I guess the mitzvah of giluach, razor blading, happens when you razor blade the last 2 hairs of your body, and therefore, since one of them fell out, so you only you weren't mekayim any mitzvah of giluach, and therefore the nazir will have to wait till he regrows hair again, and then do the mitzvah of giluach over again. Hade pashti, then Rava gave his answer. Seir einkam, there's no hairs left. Giluach einkam. So there's no mitzvah of giluach. There's no hair left. There's no mitzvah of giluach. So the Gemara asks the question, what does that mean? Seir einkam giluach yeshkam. If there's no hair left, how could it be that there's going to be a mitzvah of giluach? There's a mitzvah of razor blading. There's no hair. Hachi Kamma. This is what Rava meant to say. Afal pi seir einkan, even though there's no hair left, because you look at the guy, the nazir, all his hair is off his body. Mitzvah giluach einkan, but he didn't mekayim the mitzvah of giluach. It wasn't that he razor bladed himself. It's like the hair fell out by itself. And therefore, in order to end your Naziris, the Nazir himself has to do the Giluach. And since when it came to the last 2 hairs, one of them fell out, so he didn't do a mitzvah of Giluach, because Giluach means he cuts 2 hairs. So because of that, therefore, the Nazir was not finishing his Naziris, he's going to have to regrow some hair in order to be Mekayim, the mitzvah of Giluach. The Gemara continues. V'yama Rava, another situation. We know that if you have a 2-floor house and there's a tumas mace on the ground floor, it doesn't go up to the next floor. But what happens if there's a skylight between one floor and the next floor? So then it would go, the tumah would enter the next floor. But let's say covering the hole between the first floor and the second floor, covering that skylight hole, was a barrel of wine, and a barrel is not makabel tumah if it's made out of earthenware. So that will act as a chatzitza from the tumah going from the first floor to the second floor. But what happens? Hare amru, we said a din. Let's say the barrel that's blocking the skylight got a hole in it. So then the tumah would be able to go into the next floor, because once that barrel has a hole, it's the barrel itself will bring in the tumah into the barrel itself, which will subsequently enter into the second floor. So if the barrel has a tiny hole on the bottom, usasamuha shamarim, and what is blocking the hole is sediment. So now you have a sediment that's blocking the hole. So that we look at the barrel as if it does not have a hole. Hitzi luha. So the barrel saves everything on the second floor, and the tumas mace remains only on the first floor. Boya Rava asked the question: Agav chetzio maho. What happens if the hole was there, but you covered the hole halfway? You plastered the hole halfway. So it's a half a hole. It's less than a shear. So what's the din? So is that good enough? And is that good enough to block the tumah from going from the first floor to the second floor? Or you have to totally fix the hole in the chavius in order for it to be a chatzitza, a divider between the first floor and the second floor. Amalei Rav Yemer, Rav Ashi, Lav Mishnah Seinehu, Zu, isn't that a Mishnah, an open Mishnah, Masechta Kelim, that says that you have to block the whole thing? The Tanah we learned in the Mishnah, same idea. Chavish nikva chavis that got a hole, ususamua shmarim, and sediment covered up the hole. So then it's good. Hitzilu. Then the chavis works. It will block the tumah from going to the second floor. Pakaka bizmoira achi. Let's say you had little branches covering the hole, so it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work until you put clay there, basically blocking up the whole entire hole. Hoyabashtayim. If you have only two branches, then you have to put the clay around the side, between one little twig and the other twig. In other words, you got to make sure that if you're using twigs, cover it also, use a compound of clay on top of it, and that will make a successful blockage of the hole. And that's what the Gemara says. You have to cover the whole thing. Tama de marach, only because you put clay there. Holei marach, if you didn't put clay, if you just had twigs there, loy, then it would not be considered as if the hole is covered. Amai, why not? Wouldn't that be the same case where you plastered halfway? And therefore, if you plaster halfway, that was your question. Does it work? Do you have to plaster the whole thing? From this Mishnah, it seems that you have to totally cover the hole in order for it to work. Amrei, so the Yeshiva boy's answer is not so fast. Hachi hash is a big difference. If the hole is being clogged with branches, if you're not going to clay it, the branches will eventually leak out and fall out, and then the hole will be back a big hole again. Therefore, you have to put clay there. Hasam, in that case of the branches, if you didn't put clay there, the branches wouldn't stay in place. It would fall out. Therefore, we look at it as if there's a big hole there. But Rava's question was, Agav Chetzia, you plastered already half the hole. So that half a hole is blocked off with a firmly placed blockage. So something that stays and stays. So the question is, do you have to block the whole hole in order to make the chavius a good blockage from the first floor to the second floor, or doing it halfway, covering the hole halfway is fine, it would make it work as well. So the Gemara remains that unanswered. New Gemara. Biyama Rava has said a question. Hare Amru, we said, Gozel chametz, you steal chametz va'aval of a Pesach. And Pesach passed over it. So let's say you stole $1,000 worth of chametz and you kept it in your possession. The Ganav kept it in his possession over Pesach, and now after Pesach, it's not worth anything. You can say to the nigzal, here's your chametz back. That's a known Mishnah. So Boya Rava asked the question. We go to Amud Beis. Nishba, if you swear olav on the after it became Pesach, and they ask you, did you steal something? And you deny it, right? The Gazlan denies it, and then is Moida. He said, oh, I stole chametz. But when he was swearing that he didn't steal chametz, the chametz was not worth anything. Mahu, is that a shavua? Is that a shavuas hagazlan that would require a carbon? Mi amrim, do we say when he was when he had this chametz in his possession, kivin the mignaf, if somebody would steal that chametz from, if it was stolen, and let's say somebody would steal it from the ganav, now the ganav still owes chametz to the nigzal. He would have to write a check to the nigzal. I stole chametz before you, worth $1,000 before Pesach, and here's your money back. So therefore, we look at this chametz right now, even though technically this chametz, he could return it back to the owner, but technically, if he didn't have this chametz, he would have to write a check to the nigzal. So mamayna kakafalei. So when he swore that he doesn't owe anybody money, he didn't steal anything, he's actually denying the entire charge, a charge that was worth money, and therefore he would be required to bring a carbon on this shvua. Or will you say hashta mias hamanach? If you look at the chametz right now, if you look where it is, afra ba'alma, it's worth nothing. The chametz is worth nothing. So if he swears that I didn't steal anything, he's absolutely correct, because the chametz that he has in his possession that he stole from before Pesach is not worth any dime. So he didn't deny any money. So therefore he would not have to bring a carbon shvuah. So the Gemara says, Milsa the Ibaya Leila Rava. This question Rava had, Pshita Leila Rabba. Rabba had a simple answer to it. To Amar Rabba said that it is considered money. Rabba said like this: if someone said a gazlan, somebody said the nigzal said to the gazlan, "Shoyroi ginafti, you stole my shar." Who I'm loy ginafti, and the gazlan said, "I didn't steal anything." So the other person says, the nigzal, the victim says, "Ma TV eslacha." Then what is my ox doing in your backyard? So the other one, Gazlan, answers, you gave it to me to watch. So he's admitting that it's the other guy's ox, but he doesn't say, he is not admitting that he's a Gazlan. And then let's say he admits later that he was a Gazlan. So he's chayev to bring a carbon. Why? Why? Because what he was sharei poter atzmei megneva va'aveda. Because by saying a shomer chinam, he was trying to exempt himself from, if the item was stolen or lost, he wouldn't have to pay. If he was a true shomer chinam, you don't have to pay for gneva va'aveda. But in the actuality, he was a ganav, and therefore he denied being a ganav. And therefore, a ganav has more chiyuvim, more obligations. No matter what happens to the item that you stole, you have to give it back. So therefore, you're not a shomer. So by him saying he's a shomer, he was actually trying to deny owing money, and therefore he's chayev a shvuas hageneva. If he says shomer sachani alav, if he says I'm a paid watchman, chayev. He's chayev a carbon shvua. Same idea, because by saying a shomer sachar, he's trying to say I'm not a ganav. By saying a shomer sachar, he's not going to have to pay einsim. So in reality, he's a ganav. So how could you have said you're a shomer sachar? So if you swore that you're a shomer sachar and it turns out you're lying, you would have to pay. Bring the carbon of shvuas agazlanim. Or even if he says shoyel ani olav, I borrowed your ox from you. Chayiv, you have to bring a carbon. Because by saying you're a shoyel, there's sometimes a shoyel, a borrower doesn't have to pay if the item that you borrowed died while you were working with it. Normally, a shoyel, a borrower, pays most responsibilities. Anything happened to the item that you borrowed, but if it died while you were working with the animal, then you don't have to pay back the animal. So by the Gazlan saying he's a shoyel, he's actually denying a charge that could lead to money. So therefore, he's chayev a carbon shvuah. Now, really, he's not denying that the animal belongs to the victim. He's just saying, I'm not a ganav. I was a shoyel, I was a shomer sachar, I was a shomer chinam. So the Gemara concludes this answer. Alma, afagav the hakoim, even though even though the animal is right in front of us, and he could easily give it back to its owner. Kiven the imignav, if it was stolen, kafar, then he was actually denying money. He was saying, I don't owe any money. Hashtanami kafar. So right now, even though it was not stolen, we considered it as if he's denying he owes any money. That's why you're obligated to pay. Because if the animal was not around, he would have to pay. But even so, the fact that the animal's here, he was still trying to weasel his way out of paying in the event that the animal was stolen. Hachaname, same thing over here by the Chometz Bepesach. Afagav the Afra Almahu, even though it's dirt right now after Pesach, it's not worth anything. Even the Mignav, even if it would be stolen, you would have to pay. Right now, it's not worth anything, but if the chametz was stolen, you would have to pay. So also over here, you're denying any money, and therefore you would have to pay. You would have to bring a shvua if you swore that you weren't a ganef, and it turns out you were a ganef by chometz bepesach. So the Gemara continues. Yosef Rava l'kamal hashmaitza. Rava said this following brisa. What it said from that brisa, it said that if a guy says, I'm a shomer chinam, then that is considered as if he's denying that he's a ganef, and therefore he would be chayav a carbon shvua. Hey, so I'm asked Rava, v'chichesh ba prat l'moyde beikar, that you have to deny it, and you have to deny that you stole it. Prat, exclusion l'moyde beikar, that you're moide that the item belongs to the somebody. In other words, a guy approaches you and says, "What's my item doing by you?" If you deny that it's mine, if you say it's mine, then and you take that shvua, you chayav a carbon. But if you say it's your item, but I'm somebody else, you gave it to me, then you wouldn't have to pay the carbon shvua if you admit guilt. Ketzad. Shayri ganavti, who am I ganavti? Guy says you stole my ox, and he says I did not steal it. So the other person says, Mative etzlecha, what is it doing by you? So he says, Atamachartali, you sold it to me. Atanasatali b'matana, you gifted to me as a gift. Avicha macharali, your father sold it to me. Avicha nasanali b'matana, your father gave it to me, your matana. Your cow ran after my cow, and that's how it ended up in my backyard. I found your cow lost in the road, and then I found it. I'm a shoyel. So v'nishba v'hoida, then he swore that he was a shemechinam, a shemesacha. Yachli, and he admitted that he was not, and that he actually stole it. Yachli chayiv, I would think he's chayiv a carbon shvua. Talmud l'mechikishba prat l'mayda beikar. Exclusion of mayda beikar means you agreed to the main thing, that the item belongs to him. So you didn't deny that you didn't deny that the thing does not belong to him. So what you see over here is Shemechina Mani Love, you're not Chayiv a Shua. And the previous brisa said, what Rabbah said, you are Chayiv a Carbon Shua. So how can you reconcile this brisa with what Rabbah said? Amalei, so Rabbah said, Tudura, you're mixed up. That's not a question against me. Kitanyahi, when is that brisa talking about the Ka'amalei Heilach? After the person was cornered, and he said he's a Shai Sachar, then he swore. And then when he was Maida, he was right away saying, okay, take it back. Before he swore, he said, take it back. And therefore, it was already in the hands of the Nignav when he swore. So therefore, he wasn't denying anything. He's not, there's no risky loss over here. He was not protecting himself. Ki kamina, but when I was talking about then you would be chayiv a carbon shvua, the kaima ba'agam, when the animal is in a meadow. If the animal is in a meadow, so then by you saying you're shaymasacha, shaymechinim ani, you're protecting yourself by saying that if the item would be stolen, you wouldn't be obligated to pay. Or so therefore you were somehow protecting yourself by saying, not agreeing that you're a gana, but saying you're a shaymechina. And therefore, in that case, in that scenario, Rabbah said, Yechayev a carbon shvua. So the Gemara says, "Ata macharti li," you sold it to me. My moide beikeri. How is he agreeing that the main item still belongs to the person that's making the claimant against him? He's saying I own the item now. Like tzricha the amalei, he's agreeing. Like you're right, you sold it to me, but I like sati l'chal I didn't give you any money. Shkil tarach v'zil, take your cow back and go. I can't afford it. In the Bryce it says, you gave it to me. Well, your father gave it to me. What kind of agreement to the main to the why is he in what way is he agreeing that the item still belongs to the claimant? He's saying it was gifted to me, or your father gave it to me. So the Gemara says the Amalei, because he admits that the item now belongs to the claimant, because the original condition was Almas de Avdina Lach Naich de Nafshe Loy Avdilach. It was on condition, the gift was on condition that I do something nice to you, and I didn't. So here's your cow back, and it's yours. So again, by saying Aten Lach Avich you also consider a Moida Be'ikar. Toya Bederech Mutzasiv. He found it on the way. Claims he found it on the road. It was lost, and he found it. Lema, let the person who lost it says, "Ibaylach lahadurili." You should have returned it to me, and therefore, what's it doing by you? So why you putter on a shavuos? You're actually a ganef. If you're not returning it to me, Shvuah, he said, I swear, aveidim mitzasi. I didn't know it was yours, that I should return it to you. And in that case, so therefore he's saying I was a lost thing. I didn't know it was yours, so I didn't have intention to steal it. And therefore, when he finally agrees that he wanted to keep it, he's not considered a shomer, a ganef, and therefore he's not going to be chayev that carbon shvuah. Okay, we'll stop over here.